Hey, this is Jack Brannon, Director of Communications at Sojourn Midtown. Serving is a really big deal at our church. Every member at Midtown commits to serve regularly. We spend a lot of time talking about all the service opportunities that pop up. But serving is complicated because it's hard work. It takes away your time and your energy. And frankly, for a lot of us, it's hard to get excited about serving unless we know someone else who's already excited about it. So that's why I sat down with 3 long-term Sojourn Kids servants to talk about why they keep signing up. What are they getting out of serving? And what do they want the rest of the church to know about Sojourn Kids? I think it ended up being a really cool conversation, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Do you guys want to start by going around and just saying your names and what you do with Sojourn Kids?
Sure.
You go, Zach.
All right. Zachary, and I coordinate at the 9 a.m. So basically just making sure upstairs runs and has everybody that is there has everything that they need.
Bisola, I teach class and I teach assembly.
What you teach 4th, 5th grade, right?
Yes, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yes.
Okay, and you're on the 1st floor, Julie.
Yep, and I'm Julie, and I do the nursery coordinator at the 11 a.m.
Okay. So I thought a funny thing to start would be to say, when you did everybody here go to Sunday school or some kind of church ministry when you were young?
I did not.
You did not.
Well,
Okay.
when I was very little, I went to like a Lutheran. We went to a Lutheran church up until I was like 6. But I remember like 2 specific memories
doesn't
from Sunday
count.
school, and
Doesn't count.
Yeah, doesn't count.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you were in Sunday school now as a little child, what would you be like? Like, what would everybody else think of you if you were that kid in the room? Would you be like a troublemaker?
I can tell you already, I'm going to be the kid we talked about earlier today.
Oh, boy.
What is it?
Can I say,
Can we say names? Is that it?
yeah, can we say names?
I don't know. We'll just have to say them, and then I'll ask the parents. And if you guys hear a bleep, that's because a name we couldn't say.
No, I can do this without a name. I'm going to be the kid who always raises a hand, always wants to say something.
Okay.
Well-meaning, but it could be slightly a lot for other
Could be
people.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this kid is not a lot. This kid is awesome. But I would be that kid.
Reliable.
Yeah.
good.
Always counting.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sometimes at Theology for Kids, which is where I serve at Theology for Kids,
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to stop calling on this kid because it's going to look like favoritism.
Yeah.
Like, this one knows all the answers, and that's great, but now it's
Dependable.
to a point that it's distracting, so.
I was gonna say, I think this person that you're referring to is that same kid.
Okay.
From my own experiences.
And bless them. Like, great to have in class.
Great for momentum.
Yeah.
Great for keeping the
For
thing
momentum.
flowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So would you be similar, Zach?
I probably would be mostly quiet.
Yeah.
Like I would be the quieter one that would raise the hand and then not know how to answer the question and
That's
just
right.
like disappear into the
I
bathroom.
love it when they do that. I forgot
Yeah.
what I was going to say.
Yep, like,
Good for you.
yep. I would attempt and then bring it back.
I'd probably be similar. I'd be like on the quieter side, but like good, and I'm trying. I was thinking through memories as we were prepping for this, and I remembered one where I memorized a song for the books of the Bible, and I won a pack of gum. And that was like a memory that stood out to me. So I'd be the gum-winning kid, I guess. That was like 18 months ago.
So we should bring it back.
That was when I was little. What about you, Julie?
Yeah, I think I was more the quiet, well-behaved background,
Okay.
possibly instigating others, but not the problem
That's a
myself.
classic move.
Yeah.
I think I see that in your kiddos.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also want to ask, when you guys, so again, Zach, doesn't totally apply to you if you have just a couple of memories.
Yeah.
What were your memories of like the good and the bad about being in church as a kid? What did you enjoy? What was frustrating? Like, I feel like for me, it was a bunch of like sitting around and just kind of learning Bible stories. I feel like at a certain age, once you get up in elementary school, it's like, I've kind of learned all this already. This is just kind of glorified babysitting. And I think sometimes I had teachers that I thought, I like this person. Like I remember still a few teachers that were like, oh, this person's nice to me and they like me. But then other times I remember teachers like, I think this
person just wants to be cool and liked by all the kids in the classroom. And so that was kind of a bummer.
I mean, for me, I don't think that my memory, again, I only have a couple of them from that time frame.
And they're Lutheran. So.
And it's, different denomination altogether. But I remember that experience feeling very stuffy and like very much like, I'm going to go do the kid thing because parents are off doing the really like structured, formal, like they wore a suit every time. They always showed up and like they were in their groups and orderly. And then we got to the kids section and it was kind of just this, it wasn't a playpen, but it was much more open and like, I get to go make crafts or just do random little things. Sure. And like, I don't know, I enjoyed the fact that it separated me out and I got to just like go do it.
Yeah, I think my memories are fairly positive. I remember the worst part was always waiting for my parents to be done talking at church. Or being the last one picked up in the classroom.
I actually loved when my parents were still talking because it meant that I just got to go like, I literally just ran around the church and like did whatever I went. Like that specifically, I remember them all huddled, still doing their thing, but they'd let us out of the kids section. Yeah. And I just like had free reign of the church at that point. Probably wasn't good either, but.
You think of something, Bisola?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember negative experiences.
Oh.
No. So I grew up on a university in Nigeria, and our church was interdenominational, like Anglican Methodist, not American interdenominational.
Yeah.
And what I will tell you is I had the most faithful volunteers that they've shaped my walk with the Lord. A lot of what I know from scripture is because of my Sunday school teachers. And some of them were grandmothers. Some of them were single ladies, single men. I joined a choir.
When you were little?
Yeah. I joined a choir that was led by this man. We called him Brother Samuel. And he just wrangled a bunch of us. And every Sunday he'd teach us a song and we'd sing it. And one day he didn't show up and we found a song and we sang it. And it wasn't the right words. but there were college students who will come from very far every day. I really believe that if not for the Sunday school ministry, that I would not know the Lord. Because when it was time for me to say yes to the Lord, I knew the word. I really, really knew it. And when I turned 15, there was this day of like, submit, you know, in a sense, but I still remember their names. And I'm always hoping that one day that I could see them and thank them. Yeah.
That's amazing. You will one day, right?
Before we get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about Sojourn Kids today. And I want to hear what got you guys into ministry with Sojourn Kids here at Midtown.
I can take it first. I was serving in Sojourn College, so I was a college student at this point. And it was basically, I was surrounded by college-age people almost exclusively. And at that point, I came to Christ in college. So for me, it was really, I wanted to be surrounded by people that weren't just my specific demographic. I wanted like influence from the families and like people that actually are established in the church. And so stepping into the children's ministry fit into that kind of bucket, where I was going to be surrounded by other servants. I was going to be surrounded by families. I was going to be also, frankly, learning the Bible stories for the first time. So like teaching on Sunday I was genuinely learning the scripture as I was teaching it because I didn't grow up in it. It wasn't something that was like baked into me. And so I had like, it was my opportunity to like, without going and telling all of my peers that I didn't know what I was talking about, I could learn it in the process.
You're like, what exactly happened to Jonah, guys?
Genuinely, I had never read it until we taught it in Sojourn Kids. Like, and Jonah is actually my favorite book of the Bible at this point too, which is funny you mentioned that.
Whoa.
But yeah, so it wasn't until actually teaching it that I learned what that full story. Like I was like, oh, it's a fish. Jonah is the fish. That was my understanding before that point. Yeah. And eventually I learned that's not the case. But yeah.
There you go.
Can I say, Zach, you're such a huge encouragement, right? Because you serve so well, impeccably well, so faithfully. And I mean, not to say that people who don't know the Lord or who don't know about the Lord from when they're little they can't serve, but that's really amazing. It's really amazing.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ladies.
Well, I think I started serving because my husband started serving. And he started serving because at that time there was a need for men specifically up in the kids wing to have more of a presence there. And then I was like, well, if he's serving, I can be at home alone with my kids, or I can stay and serve, and we can serve as a family. So I started up in the kids, and then I moved down to the nursery. That was more my jam. The nursery floor, the kids' floor is amazing too.
I feel like the nursery's either like way easier or way harder.
Yeah,
than
there are
the
times. Yeah, definitely. It's just a different kind of.
It scares me.
It's a different kind of hard. It's a different kind of crazy, but it was more my jam.
It's a lot less likely you'll get poop on you on the second and third floors. So
Don't have to worry about poop.
Sure.
They don't.
Yeah.
it could happen.
Yeah.
Injuries, I feel I'm terrified of like dropping a baby. And like,
Good.
you drop a 4-year-old, it's fine.
They're flexible.
They're durable at that point.
You drop a 4-year-old.
What about you, Bisola?
I don't want to seem weird, but Deuteronomy and Genesis, we've had this conversation before. I think.
You're going to have to remind me. It was the series?
No. So I was reading through scripture.
Yeah.
I was trying to finish the Bible, and I was reading Genesis. And at the end of Genesis, Joseph says, you know, God is surely going to take you out. When that day happens, take my bows with you. And I had this zoom out of somebody had to have told Joseph. And at best, that would have been, or that was most likely Jacob. Somebody had to have told Jacob. That had to be Isaac. And it was Abraham, right? Because when God called Abraham, he said, you know, Abraham is going to teach his kids. And I don't know, in that moment, also my church, I was going to a church at that time in Salt Lake. My pastor was teaching on Deuteronomy. Y'all. Anywho, there was this one day where he talked about how it's a family's job. They have the primary responsibility to teach their kids the gospel. So around this time, I'm finishing Genesis, and it just dawned on me, you know, how will they hear? How will they believe if they've not heard, right? Like, you know, so I had a nephew, and I wanted him to know the Lord, but he was far away. And so I thought, God, I'm going to teach other people's kids. So when I moved and I joined a church, it was like, this is the next reasonable step for me to take as a Christian to do kids ministry.
That's cool that it was not like a guilt necessarily situation, but it was like, I have a vision for what this is about.
Yeah.
Which is really like I think that's a big part of Sojourn Kids here at Midtown, that it's like, I think there are some churches where it's assumed if kids are coming, they're believers, like they're going to turn out fine. Whereas something that, especially from Rochelle, our kids director, that I've heard is like, everybody's born an unbeliever. Like, we want to expose them to the gospel so that they will learn to love Jesus and follow him.
Yeah. And I will say, to add to that, if we have the mentality, no guilt here, but if we have the mentality that we're brothers and sisters, our kids should know the Lord, right? And they will not magically. It's not going to happen, you know? And maybe my Sunday school experience, man, people gave me food. They took me on trips. I liked to be at church. And because of that, I learned the word. And eventually, God brought increase to it. So, yeah.
That also makes me think about a couple years ago, to promote serving in Sojourn Kids, I did a silly video where I like pretended to interview some of the kids and asked them, what do you like about Sojourn Kids?
I remember this video.
It was very silly. And I was struck when I went back and started editing their footage, I was struck by how many of the kids talked about that they liked Sojourn Kids because their teacher was nice to them. And I was like, I would never have expected them to say that. But as soon as they said that, I remember being a kid, it's like, oh, I'm very focused on whether my teacher is nice to me. And just hearing you talk about people like feeding you and caring for you, and think about what makes space for the gospel is like, a lot of us, it's because we feel like, oh, I'm safe here. These people love me. They're interested in me. They have room for me. And then I'm open to hearing. And that's just as true with kids. So that's cool to hear that happened. One of the things I think a lot of people think about Sojourn Kids, that I think about Sojourn Kids, is that it's hard work. Like there are some ministries where you get up and move chairs for like 8 minutes, and then it's like, all right, high five, we did it. And Sojourn Kids is not easy. So I'm kind of interested in hearing about what's the tough stuff that you guys deal with. Yeah.
I don't feel like I actually have the hard job. So I'm not actually in the classroom for the most part. I'm making sure that the teachers in the classroom have everything they need. And so for me, mostly I'm there. Earlier we talked about them being like the nice teacher.
Yeah.
I tend to be the disciplinarian. Like that's where I end up
You're like,
coming
I don't
in.
care about being
Like
nice.
if things are going poorly in the classroom, that's when I step in and
Yeah.
like take that brunt. And
That
for
fits-
me, that's the kind of rub, I guess.
Oh.
Um,
I was just going to make a joke. I was going to say that fits with your natural persona. Being super harsh and like
Yes,
laying down the
told.
law with people.
No, but like it genuinely like it's the least pleasant element of it probably for me.
Yeah.
But far more is the work that actually takes place in the classroom of like the teachers that are putting in the work so that I never actually have to like there's classrooms I never have to go into and it's because those teachers have it on lock and like they don't need upper elementary is a chaos but people like Bisola who lead in there like they run the classroom and know how to even if it's not them necessarily that has to take charge in the classroom to like change a thing they know who they can get to put in there and like navigating I don't know it's a tough thing to navigate is keeping in control of 18 different fourth graders who are all very excited to be done with spring break or wherever they're at.
Yeah, I don't know. It's challenging, but it's hard for me to say this part of it is challenging. So most of what happens, I would say in my classroom, so I do the 3rd, 4th, and 5th for 11 a.m. Most of what happens in my classroom that is not the most enjoyable is keeping the kids just in a state of not chaos, like low entropy, right? Like, just everybody calm down. That's the most challenging. However, what I think, it doesn't register to me as hard because they're kids.
Yeah.
They will run. And somebody just has to say, don't run, sit in your chair. They don't like it as much, but on the other hand, I know that in the system where I serve every Sunday that I can, it doesn't feel as bad, because I can imagine you have a sibling or in your family, every day is not the best, but you love your family, I guess. So for me, maybe what's most challenging is to not be in my head and to love myself well enough that whichever way they respond to me doesn't matter, right? So I would say that that's it, that I can show up.
Oof.
You can like me and you cannot like me. It's okay. I'm going to be here and I'm going to be here next week and then next year,
That's pretty relatable because I think about, it's funny being the adult. Like I'm thinking about Theology for Kids, Sunday night, it's like 4:45. And some random kids are like walking in. And there's a part of me that's like, okay, I'm the adult. I should be like, hey, what's your name? Welcome. Like, I'm so glad to see you. And there's a part of me that's like, oh, I don't want to be the dopey teacher, Makes these kids think I'm a nerd. And there is something about,
It's okay.
just letting it be what it is and not overthinking it.
It's okay.
That actually reminds me of what's actually the most difficult thing for me specifically is leading worship. I turn bright red the second that I'm having to do like
It's a lot.
dance motions,
The hand
in front,
motions, man.
No, I've tried. I've put it out there, and I now respectfully ask my teachers to help out, and they help in that.
I'm like, let's do a little sway and clap. Like that's the most I can possibly.
It's like nothing puts me in my head about like how much the kids are thinking about me or judging me than you start playing like stomp stomp clap, and I have to like stay on a rhythm, which I'm not great at.
And then it's like, what if they see me like off rhythm and they're like, is Christianity even real?
like, can I do this so bad that it does things poorly? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing is, it's like the hardest and some of the most life-giving is like your criers or your kids that are sad to leave their parents, but also it's why one of the reasons I love to serve down with the babies is I remember being that parent who needed to take, like having an hour and a half to go worship or go sit quietly and not be touched or whatever was so incredibly life-giving for my week ahead with my kids. So when we're able to successfully like keep a kid in or when we get to the point where we've, they made it 10 minutes and then the next week we make it 20 minutes and we get to that where they stay a whole service.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we did it. It's such a victory.
This kid's attaching to me. They trust me as a caregiver.
Yeah. And I think long term too, that's because we want them to know that when they come into a classroom at church, like you are safe, your needs are met, whether you're crying, you're happy, you're sad, you have a consistent, loving presence because that's what Christ is to us, right? Like that's how we are loved by God. So the fact that we get to do that for these little tiny humans and start that process of them knowing secure love apart from their parents and they're still loved securely is such a privilege.
It's a big deal.
So it's hard, but it's such a privilege.
And you're like forming stuff in their brain, like literally for their lifetime.
Yeah.
Like, every
Make
time
good
you're
pathways
soothing
there.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you're safe.
Yeah.
That also makes me think about something that I have only come to realize as an adult when my peers have had kids is that parents can feel anxiety that their kids are a burden to other people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as a single guy, I'm like, unless your kid is absolutely losing his mind, like, I think they're pretty cute and funny. And do I want to hold them or play with them? Like, probably yes. If nobody else is already like on kid duty, give me a little bit of that, like get some oxytocin flowing. And I think, especially maybe for new families coming to church who have not been here before, haven't been to Midtown before, they could come and feel like if their kid's crying or like a young kid's crying or like an older kid is not super eager about going to the classroom, then mom and dad can get activated about, can I do this? Can I, you know what I mean? And it totally takes them out of the worship experience. And Sojourn Kids is in many ways a ministry to them to be like, you're free to be an adult person on your own and not have to like manage your kids and not have to worry that like you're burdening your church by bringing your kids. Like your kids are a gift to us and we want to care for them. And
could I add to that? One of the things that with older kids, you feel that, right? So somebody has said, this kid has trouble at school, right? And their parents, they preempt their interaction with the teacher with, I know that my kid is a little hard.
oh man.
I'm thinking, I'm harder. Because I think on some level, so my oldest kids are maybe 11 and 12. What is a 12-year-old gonna do to me that will spoil my day?
Right.
Nothing, right? So there's this, one of the things that I try to do and try to even tell my kids, like, you guys are not bad enough to make me angry. If I'm stern, I'm stern. But you really annoy me, like make me feel bad, like you're tiny, And so
I have to go home and take a nap. I can go home and do whatever I want.
Yeah, you go back to your parents, but I've also seen parents who sort of feel more, your kid is not that bad. We have great, FYI, we have the best kids. Your kids, they're not
Pretty
that
cute.
bad,
They're
right?
pretty cute.
So like.
And sometimes the kids that are really bad are the funniest, cutest kids.
Yeah, and they're lovely, right? And even if they will respond to it, I have a kid, I shouldn't tell some stories.
Please, I want to know.
Oh, I have a kid that eats goldfish with his earwax.
Okay, that's,
This kid
I don't think
is
so.
this kid is one of the most knowledgeable children that I've met about scripture, and not just head knowledge. It just flows out, and there will be different types of children everywhere. But every time, like a parent is like, "So did they do well?"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, they're great. You see them sort of like decompress and feel more confident the next time. And even the kids, some of my kids are a little antsy because they hear that a lot. And they act out, like, you know what? I'm cool. if you're cool in the corner, we're cool. You know,
Yeah.
so that's just something that you mentioned that happens not too rare. It happens a little often.
I know we're focused in on Sojourn Kids. I would actually drive this at CGs as well. We have two little kiddos in our CG that it has been an absolute joy since they were born and have now become like a part of CG that like they sit while we're talking through the Psalms and like getting to, and I don't remember if it's Psalm 8, 9, 10, 11. One of the early Psalms like specifically talks about the babbling of infants and babies as like representative of God and like his work in the world. And like reading that Psalm while then watching Lewis go like wander around and like flop down on the ground and like completely trust his mom and like drop back into her arms, like while we're still talking and reading scripture. And then also giving, like he lived out an example of it to teach the rest of CG in that moment. And like so often we undervalue the impact that like kids bring to the church when we're having those discussions, like when we're talking about scripture or supporting one another. Like, yes, they can be a lot, they can be distracting, they can be loud, but especially for us like that don't have kids, I can bear that for this one conversation to get to connect with my brother or sister like fully and like meet them where they're at. And yeah, you deal with them crying all the time, I'll deal with them crying. It's not like it is not that bad.
That's normal.
And
That's
more
what
than
kids
that,
do.
more than that, it's actually God given to us. Like it's a thing that we get to like lean into and participate in. And at least as someone who doesn't have kids, like that's been my experience with it of like getting to step in. I don't know if from like actually having kids, like have you received that? Have you felt that before? Or like
Yeah, in
know,
different
what is it?
places. And it's awesome when my kids get excited then to like see adults at church. Makes me so happy. Like and they'll like know people I don't know. And I think that's amazing. And it makes me so excited when someone like waves or says hello or you know whatever and they know that person. I'm so thankful because I know there will be times where probably in the future as they grow up where they might not be able to come to me, but they have a larger community now that has like loved them and been in class with them and they feel safe talking to this person about whatever they may not feel they can talk to me about. I think that's so important as with kids. I'm like, I don't want to be your only place where you can talk about God or talk about who Jesus is. Like the fact that you have multiple adults in your life that you have known that have spoken truth. I'm so thankful for that.
I think there's some families where it's like, we only talk about God at home, and then outside of the home, there's none of that.
Yeah.
And there's some families it's like, we never talk about it at home, we only talk about it at church or outside of home. And either one of those will do a number in a kid's brain. And if you have
Because
like,
you want it to be so integrated.
yes,
like,
if you have like, hey, we're going to talk about it at home,
Yeah.
and then we come to Sojourn, and you've got these servants who have space for you, and yeah. And that also made me think about anytime a kid says hi to me in the hallway, I feel so cool instantly. They're like, hi, Mr. Jack. I'm like, yeah.
made it.
But I'm like, oh, what's up? You know, gotta play it cool.
Keep it cool.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about what got you started. We've talked about some of the tough stuff, or semi-tough stuff, but also some valuable things. Also, if we haven't covered it already, what keeps you coming back? Because you guys have all served. Maybe I'll reiterate to anybody who doesn't know, if you guys don't know, that we have seasons of serving here at Midtown. We have a summer season, a fall season, which goes till Christmas, and a spring season, which starts after the new year. So if you're serving for a while and you start to get pooped or something about your life circumstance changes, you're like, I need a break, you have an easy off-ramp. So there's no like long-term commitment because we think that's weird. But there are a lot of folks, and you guys are among that group, who will serve repeated seasons. So I'm like, something's working. Like, right? So when you get to the end of a season, you're like, I'm good. Like, let's go again. Like, what's going through your head?
I want to start. I was out of the country for 3 weeks earlier this year, and I have a little girl who is 6. She started this when she was about 4. She would lift her hands. Okay, she shouldn't do this, but I'm not compliant. Okay, so she will lift her hands and I will carry her. So she's grown up significantly now, but I was out of town when I got back, she just raises her hands. I hold her. We can't really dance. It's pretty cumbersome. And she says to me, "Are you going to be here next year?" And I say, "I think so." "Why do you ask?" She said, "Because I looked for you. I didn't find you." She's not in my class. And you don't think that the kids notice that you're not there. You don't. I even struggle to hold her. She's getting big. But I would say for me, I like my kids.
Yeah.
I've come to, I like them.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that with, I might cry, but I think, so I started this because I felt a conviction, and that conviction hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Right? So I am doing it. But in addition to that, when you get to see like young kids, like maybe something clicks for them, and you're like, man, it's clicking. Some of my kids will tell me, "Oh, I read this part of the Bible," or "This thing happened,"
Or even if they ask a question, you're like, "Yes, please bring me a question."
Yeah, and the routine of service has given me the opportunity to actually love them, right? So I don't know a lot of their parents well, but I know them well enough. And they also, I guess there's a way they respond to you that lets you know they may not have words for it, but they can recognize the value, right? And sorry, this is not a I'm good, because we struggle. It's a family system, but at the same time, I guess that little girl is my most articulate way to say they notice that you're not there and they love you being there and you benefit. Like sometimes I have 20 kids in my class and they feel my heart. Sojourn Kids is my favorite part of Sundays. And I'm always tired, always hungry after it, but I see the kids that come in through the door and you have your own thing, with each kid, and it's a blessing, so we're still here.
I think similar things about theology for kids on Sunday night. I originally started doing it because Rochelle just asked me because she needed somebody. And it's like, okay, like I'm not doing anything on Sunday nights, I can do it. And now if it gets canceled a week and I get my Sunday night back, there's a part of me that's like, okay, great, like awesome, I'll take that back, like, yeah. But then also when I do it afterward, it's like, okay, that was crazy, but like that was fun. And like these kids are fun. Like that was a good time.
Yeah.
I have a hard time answering it because over the years, it's depending on the season, the thing that has kept me there has been different. Like sometimes it's been just straight like obedience to the call of like, we're supposed to serve the church and like, this is where I serve. And so this is like, at least for now, this is the open door that the Lord has that he's like, I'm stepping into.
Yeah. Which I don't think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because you don't always feel like it. And if you're looking for that, things are going to blow up.
Yeah. And sometimes it would be just so much easier to just sleep in for the morning.
Yeah.
But so that's some seasons. It's just I feel like I just need to be there because that's the call. Other times it is also like, as I've started teaching assembly more and stepping into that, like there's a joy in learning a new way to like proclaiming the gospel actually has like a different, I haven't articulated this, I think even to my wife at this point. There is something like very different when you end a message and it is like, hey, trust in Jesus. Like this is like, there is one true God and that is who you need to look to. And you're looking at 20 to 40 little 7-year-olds. Like there's an impact that's happening there and you can just feel the Spirit at work. And like that in and of itself is like reason to keep showing up and doing that. And so there's been seasons, especially recently, I felt towards that. Sometimes it's also like loyalty to my servants of just like, honestly, if I'm going to ask
You're a team.
Right. If I'm going to ask Clark to show up on a regular basis, I need to be able to show up. Like that's, especially considering I do have the easier job of the two of us. Like he has to handle lower elementary. I have to show up and like make sure that his pitcher is full. And I don't do that often. Like normally they have to fill it up. And so it's just one of those where like, if I'm going to ask someone else to do it, there's a weight of responsibility of like, okay, I can also show up and do it too.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah. I think a big part of it for me is it's built into our schedule now. That at first it was really difficult to get going. And then once you're in it, you're just in it. And so to just make it, it's just what we do, week in and week out. And it becomes easier. I don't know if that's the right word, but when it's just what you're expecting to do. And knowing the families, it becomes sweeter and better the longer that we've done it, the longer than I've done it.
And even just knowing what to anticipate each Sunday.
Yeah.
These are the kids that are probably going to come and all that stuff.
Yeah, and especially with the nursery, like you only get these kids for 2 years, and then to be able to go through and then get the younger siblings, or to send them off and see them later as they're growing up, or it's really expanded I feel like we had kind of a core community at church, and then we didn't have much like in between community. And so serving and continuing to serve has developed that there's not nearly as many strangers at church that it used to be. Like there's so many people I don't know. And now I may not know you well, but I know who you are. And I am so thankful for that. That's more like what my home church or growing up church would have been my experience, that you have this larger community that you know and that knows you. And this has helped develop that so much. And it makes going to church in general more fun because there's more people that you recognize. There's more people that you know. We serve somewhere else, and I'm serving with someone like at the Christmas. Affordable Christmas.
Everybody say it.
Yeah, affordable Christmas. Yeah. I was like really anxious because I didn't know who I would know that would be serving there. And I get to go and wrap gifts with someone who serves in the nursery with me every other week.
That's fun.
Which is, it's really fun because you just get to continue to develop those kind of like in between relationships that I might not otherwise have any connection.
Kind
These
of
people
medium
in our
level.
church. Yeah. So not just the kids or the families you serve, but also your fellow sojourners that you get to know people. Yeah.
That's so true. The reason, a big portion of why I'm going to Germany later this year to visit with the Honeyes and Leipzig project is specifically because Friedrich would stop when he dropped off Fritz in the 3-year-old classroom.
Wow.
He would consistently stop and like get to know me and like built that relationship there. And it's driving me now to fly to the other side of the world to spend time with him and help him do Herbst Fest. Like it's so true that it expands out your community and like the web of people in the church that you get to like interact with and build relationship with on a regular basis.
It's almost as if when God calls us to step in, that he's going to bless us in some way.
I mean,
Do you ever think that?
What? Crazy.
It's also funny too when you talk about meeting other people. It's like if you saw some folks that you didn't know and you're like, oh, I'd like to meet them someday. I wonder who they are. And then later you see them pregnant and you're like, okay, we're going to be friends.
I'm going to see you a lot.
We're going to be buddies.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask you guys, as you think about Sojourn Kids ministry as a whole, what are some of your wishes and desires for the kids ministry? Specifically, we talk about calling people to serve a lot. We've talked about it is hard to get started. When that's a new routine and you're giving up that time and that energy, like that's a big sacrifice. And if there is payoff, like there is payoff, but it doesn't come immediately. So we're always telling people, hey, we would love to have you on the team. Can you kind of help people think through, like, if we had those additional people, what happens in Sojourn Kids when we have lots of faithful servants showing up?
It's a big question because my brain's going all the different avenues of like, over the years, it's shaped and like it has shifted so much over the years and still stayed so consistent in other ways. One, faithful servants just brings like stability and a space where we actually can start straight into those gospel conversations without having to like every time we change out servants, we have to rebuild relationship over again. And like having those that step in and fill that need and like show up consistently, and having enough people so that they can stay in the same class week in and week out. Even if it's every other, like I think there's still a consistency that happens there, that when we're short-handed and don't have enough people, like sometimes we have to close down an entire classroom and all of those kids, their whole rhythm and routine changes on a dime. And that just, it doesn't stop all the work, but it slows it down significantly. And so like, I think one big vision is just creating stability in the classroom, so that those conversations, like it becomes less having to build that relationship because you've already built it, and you can just go straight into, hey, here's what being a dream disciple looks like. Here's how to, like, I'm going to come alongside you as a friend and like show you how to study the scripture and like go through the Bible over 3 years. Like go through that whole routine and touch each and every one of those stories.
I'm going to say, so you asked the question, like, what does it look like if we had more servants?
Yeah.
I'm going to say me. It looks like me. I just covered my mic. It looks like me because we're not doing kids ministry. We're doing future Christian ministry. So, like, let's start with that. We're not, we may make a fool of ourselves, but it is so that when they become adults, right, we're all just not struggling again, right? And we will always struggle on some level, but we have future Christians, future pastors, future professionals, future parents in our classrooms. So what it could look like could be our faithfulness helps people to love the Lord. Our faithfulness could mean that this one girl, right, grows up to trust the Lord and not trust beauty, not trust like money. It could mean that, you know, people they grow up and by God's grace don't end up in drug addiction. It could mean that they don't just look good on the outside, but that they're sanctified on the inside. We're doing future Christian adult ministry. And what, Zach had said that you have to build relationships again. So, you know, if somebody comes into a class and they're just kind of getting used to you and then poof, new face. Like, what happens if we changed our pastors every month?
Oh, you just made that pretty real.
Yeah, what happened if we showed up and then there was a different person, right? And it's not that people themselves are not valuable, but to know a kid enough to be able to push them. Just you have the relational equity to push them a little bit, to like nudge them a little bit, to like lovingly correct them, to give them stuff, and they're used to it. And I mean, when you ask that question, I'm thinking people did this for me, right? And so I think it looks like a future church of people who love the Lord, you know, who are living for the gospel, who are living sent, who are learning to repent more often. Like, it looks like what we're trying to be. That's how I would put it,
That even makes me think about, even for people who are not that regular, they just serve some of the time. So like you mentioned Clark a minute ago, and I was thinking, he did it. I served, on Easter Sunday, I subbed into a random classroom with him, and he did a killer job as a teacher. And I was like, I'm bringing nothing to this lesson right now over all the classroom, but I'm really helping Clark because I'm keeping things from like exploding over here. All kids are finding so many weird ways to, you know, spill water on the table and everything. So I think that's even an encouragement for people who are like, maybe I can only serve one season every other week or something like that. And then that's a lot for me. And I'm going to have, you know, it's like, that's still such a gift because you're bringing human infrastructure.
But once a month.
That we need. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd also, you touching on like the specificity of like one kiddo jogged this in my brain too, of like, we have kids that we know are higher needs, that not just like your typical like acting out in class, but like they are on the spectrum or they have something that is like requires really special, like we need additional set of hands in the classroom. Sometimes we can't let them into the class at this point. Because if I can't guarantee that a normal class of neurotypical kids is going to run okay, like it might not be safe for like us to add one of these like higher need kids in. And so like building like a special buddies program or building in something where we can go and support them. And personally, it's in the past, we've historically kind of leaned on coordinators to like fill some of that too, of like kind of stepping in where we could or different things because we want them to be a part of the class. But giving them the space to like actually participate and like engage as much as they can, and give the parents a break too, because they're also dealing with that
That's
on a regular
huge.
basis.
Yeah.
But focusing in on like that specific kid, like there are specific kids that aren't hearing the message of Jesus right now because we don't have the capacity to provide all of the care that they would need on a Sunday. And maybe they are from their parents, and like that's still happening, obviously, because we're not the end all be all of them hearing the gospel.
Thank goodness.
But like our dream as like leaders in this is to create the space so that they can hear the gospel here at Sojourn. And that we are serving those that are often marginalized or removed away. And that would be a component of it too.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think in the nursery, having a few more servants helps everybody run longer and run better. Because I think one of the hardest, most difficult things in the classroom is when you're understaffed, you have crying kids, you're sweating. There's
can really only hold 2 babies at once.
Yeah. And the more babies, we love having the babies come into the nursery, but we have to keep our ratios a little bit lower, because if you have 2 crying babies, you need 2 adults. So helping those people, we have people in the nursery that have been serving for years and years and years and years.
Which is awesome.
Which is amazing. And it's loving them well, is making sure that they're well staffed, that they have people in there with them. And so you don't have to know everything about babies, because we have people in the classrooms already who are like, oh, I know this is Jill and she likes Cheerios and she's crying, go grab her a book. Like we know the kids, but having that extra person that's in there that'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can fill a Cheerio cup and give it to Jill, and now she's just gonna like sit on the ground and eat her Cheerios.
When I
and
substitute in the
she's
classroom
so happy.
every once in a blue moon, and I'm with one of those people,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, thank goodness. Like, I don't have to
it's
figure anything
amazing.
out.
Yeah, but I think one of the best ways we can love them and help your body is to make sure that we have the other adults in that classroom to support them.
Yeah. There is something cool that happens in any ministry where it's like the more people get involved, the more momentum we have. And I've actually thought, we talked about the trying to dance to the music and like the kids worship, which is a video. And often Danny will get it when I've been there. She'll get up and she'll do motion. I'm like, this is great. Like, praise the Lord that we have Danny and that we have a TV and we can play this music. But I'm like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we had like a little band?
Yes.
Like people who are like,
Plug.
So
Plug.
fun.
Plug.
yeah. If you're like, hey, I don't want to lead worship in front of like hundreds of people out here on a Sunday morning, but maybe a very,
Guitar,
group of kids who
piano,
aren't discriminating. You can be silly.
Yes.
That would be really fun.
Yeah.
And it would bless those kids. And it's really, again, they're like logistical factors, but there's also like, oh, we're seeing that worshiping the Lord is cool and that adults actually do that. And it's not just a weird activity they give to 7-year-olds.
Yeah, I really want to say this. Boys need to know that it is cool and okay for a man to be extravagant about Jesus. So one of the things that, you might come to this later, but some of the boys are just like, I'm way too cool for this, right? And it's okay, they get to that point, but we're discipling, like we are discipling people by all the shimmies we do and the fact that none of us can really dance. It's intentional. We're not haphazardly, creating, we're not wasting time. Right? So like you say, some of our kids, maybe when they're older, the little kids are they're perfect. They will just, their eyes will glaze over anything. But some of the older kids, they're beginning to form opinions, but people are, they're fruit of their nurture. So imagine if all the servants, male and female, and there were more females than males, and it was normal, and it was okay, and it was cool. Like, kids could take the gospel home. We shouldn't be so, we are, and we could be influencing the children, but we could be influencing a dad through his 7-year-old or a grandparent, right? Like the gospel, if we let the Lord use it, it could go so far, right? Yeah. So when you talked about worship, plug.
We definitely, that's a huge element of like, one, as servants, it should be worshipful for us too, and like engaging from that perspective. Because if we're worshiping, we're modeling it and we're building towards that. And so we don't ever want it to be not that. And so the more that we can bring in, for me, the more that I can bring in people who are musically talented and able to like use those gifts, like that encourages me to be worshiping. It's part of being here at Sojourn is like, we pursue musical excellence. We want like the body to be singing and to be a part of the choir and make a great part of the choir. I don't necessarily make a great part of a front on stage. And so like I need people that can like want to do that and be a part of that to show what worship and model what like true worship really is for these kiddos, because sometimes they're not seeing it, like especially if they're not engaged in like they don't see the liturgy that we go through on a regular basis because they are separated away, and we need leaders that can work through that and like present that to them.
Well, when we got together to do this video, I told you guys, I wanted you guys to just speak out of your experience. Like one of the goals of us sitting down and talking so that people in our church can hear what it's like to serve, to know you don't have to be a super Christian. It's not the hardest thing in the world. There are some rewarding things about it. So we always want to be telling this story and being like, hey, this is for normal people, and we're all called to serve somewhere. So as you think about addressing our church, like Midtowners, maybe people who are like considering serving, or maybe people who are like, I want to, but I've got, these obstacles or objections, or maybe people who think, I've never really considered it. I don't think this is for me. Maybe it is, and they don't know it yet. Is there anything that you would say to them to say, hey, just consider this?
I would say, honestly, sit and pray about it. Honestly. I think I know what the Lord will do. But, and I say to pray about it because people are busy, right? And we can't determine what you prioritize. I feel like that it has to be a conviction for us to be faithful, right? So it would be great to have an ad hoc like servant, and there's room for that. We really, really need people who can stay a while. And we don't even know. We don't know what your life looks like. So just 30 seconds, just tell the Lord, like, what would you have me do? And I think that God will lead you, whether it's Sojourn Kids at this time or not.
Or some other team, maybe.
Yeah, that's the thing. How will you have me use my time or my gift, or like just push me, lead me in the way to go, Jonah, right? Like, God said, go somewhere. It's all over scripture, right? That the Lord will direct our steps and tell us where to go. So I don't know nothing about anybody's lives, but if you pray, God will tell you.
Yeah. And you're right. We're everybody's busy. Nobody has a few hours extra in the week. They're like, I don't need these, but the Lord multiplies loaves and fishes. So
The story today in Sojourn Kids was Isaiah 6, and it's his basically call to ministry. And a huge part of the Sunday lesson was like liturgy and that process. But the core of it is Isaiah confronting the Lord, like seeing the Lord in front of him, being convicted of his sin, turning and saying, okay, what should I do now? And the Lord saying, go, like, go do the work of the ministry, go do it. And like, frankly, like the ask is out there to the church of we need people to step in. And that looks like and we've talked about it already. Like it could be music, it could be helping out in a classroom just as a second pair of hands. It could be leading and teaching a class. It could be coordinating and like running through like the hospitality side and all of that. It could be admin work. Like the number of things that go into running Sojourn Kids on a Sunday is so expansive in general. Like it's not true that your gifting or your need or like your abilities aren't going to be valued or used in it. Like we have enough needs that we can put you in somewhere. And the ask is out there of like, we're trying to respond to that call of like, yes, Lord, we'll go, we'll be there. And we need people to come alongside to continue to do that and to continue to build in that.
I feel like sometimes people will step in and be like, I don't know what my gifts are. And it turns out like you try a bunch of stuff and you might have more gifts than you knew you had. Because the Lord will show up and something comes out of you,
Yeah, and I think I would say you don't need to be Like, you don't need to be a kid person or a baby person or whatever in order to step in and
You
help.
don't have to be in your 20s.
No, you don't have to be in your 20s. That there is space and need in all different positions, and you never know what you're going to end up loving. Because toddlers may be overwhelming, but also like when they just like come and sit beside you and you're like, read them a book. It's so sweet. It's so sweet. And there's so much you can learn, you can grow. And what's so fun about kids is that they might judge you when they're older, like, but the little ones, they will not judge you. Like,
They're really quick to
they have
befriend
like
you. They
stuff
think you're
running
fun.
down their face
Yeah.
and like they have no judgment. All they want is someone is there to comfort them if they fall down,
Yep.
give them some Cheerios or a snack, and like they're good. So
That's awesome.
yeah, you don't need to be a baby person or a toddler person or a kid person. You can learn because they're just little creatures. Like, they're just little humans that, were made by God. I think the generalization of what kids are or what babies are or toddlers, you're forgetting that like they're just an individual of what we were, and like they are so loved and created by God in this, and their little personalities are amazing. Because you see how God has created them all so unique, and it comes out so young. So fun to see.
That is fun.
I want to double down on the 20-year-olds. We want you.
Please
be there.
No more 20-year-olds. If you're 20, you're out. Get out of here.
But also genuinely, like, our wiser folks, please come. Like, we need the wisdom and the experience that comes with like our older generations to be a part of like discipling these kiddos. I started when I was 20. Actually, I think I was younger than 20, but like, I didn't know the first thing about what I was doing, but I had the energy to show up and do it. Beyond that, like, I need people that are older and wiser than me to actually be teaching the gospel out there too, and like imparting their wisdom to this generation. Because there's so much that I just don't know. Like, I know how Sojourn Kids runs. Beyond that, like, there's so much more life experience that can bring to the table and can shape how we actually run the ministry as well.
I served with a senior saint today. She's awesome. I don't know if I could say names, but she's awesome. Smooth.
You know who you are.
Yes, you do, you know?
Good job, senior saint.
She's awesome. And I also didn't think, people will ask me if I have kids. And I always thought like, that's weird. And then I was voluntold to teach assembly.
Okay.
And people would say, oh, that's good. I have no idea what's going on. I say that to say, you'd mentioned you might find things that you're good at. I think like, here I am, in the words of Isaiah, send me, you know? He will find a place for everybody. Like, there's room for every type of person. We vacuum, we'll feel, there's so much that everybody can do. But.
It makes me think about, when someone, especially, so if you've been coming to Sojourn a while and you don't know, is this my church home or not? Like, the path that we want for those people is to become members, commit, but then once you become a member, you sign a membership covenant and you commit, you're like, I'm gonna attend regularly, I'm gonna give, I'm gonna serve. And each one of those things, there's some other commitments, but like, those are three big ones, right, that people think of that really take time and intentionality. And it's easy to sign, and then later you get into it and life happens and you're like, these are so much more demanding in some ways that I thought. And then there's this big barrier about, am I gonna commit? And I feel like something I'm hearing repeatedly from y'all's stories is you get over that barrier and you do it. And then there's so much joy on the other side, and there's God giving things to you as you're serving. And so I'm grateful for you guys, like, that you show up week after week and you're present with the kids. And my hope is that a lot of people who will jump in will have similar experiences and feel like there's actually a lot of life and joy in this for me.
And a green shirt.
And a green shirt, or maybe a different color soon.
Yeah, if you want to speak into what color shirt we have, get on the inside, cast your vote. So I will say, if you're thinking about serving with Sojourn Kids, it's easy to go to sojournmidtown.com/serve. All of our serving opportunities are there. You can see all the stuff. There's questions and answers that we get commonly. And we'd love for you to just think about it. And like Bisola said, just spend some time in prayer and be open to how the Lord wants to use you. So, thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.